to the audio soundbites. We're going to start here, as I told the broadcast engineer, with F. Chuck Todd on the Today Show today with Savannah Guthrie. They were speaking about Ted Cruz's campaign, telling voters about Carson's leaving the race because of a report on CNN. Now, let's review this. Let's review what we know just before we get to the soundbite. Somebody at CNN, forget the name, tweeted that Carson was leaving the race and going home to Florida and then to the National Prayer Breakfast. That was a CNN tweet. And the CNN reporter had to get it from somewhere. And he did not get it from Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz didn't know. And by the way, this is 10 minutes, 20 minutes before the caucus begins. This is between the hour 5:30 and 6:30 p.m. on Monday. Somebody had to tell the CNN reporter that Ben Carson was going back to Florida. The CNN reporter tweets it. The other campaigns see it. It clearly says that Carson is returning to Florida, not going to New Hampshire, South Carolina, but is going to attend the National Prayer Breakfast today. So the Rubio campaign and the Cruz campaign get in gear and point this out to their people on the ground, and they pass it around as though it could be that Carson or CNN is saying that Carson is leaving the race. He is, what the CNN tweet said, going back to Florida. Well, then the results come in, and Carson outperforms what the Real Clear Politics polling average showed that he would do. Cruz wins when Trump was forecast by the polls to win by 4. That shakes up everything. The Democrat side's a mess. The Democrats and the Des Moines Register, a whole bunch of people still embarrassed over what happened there. Because of all the embarrassment on the side of the people who lost, then somehow it ends up that the Cruz campaign engaged in a dirty trick by simply passing on information to caucus goers that was supplied by Carson or his campaign to CNN. This was then said to be a dirty trick, and Dr. Carson went out there and said he was righteously indignant and offended and so forth, and went so far as to make it look like he thought Cruz ought to fire somebody for making this happen. In the meantime, not one caucus goer has yet come forward and said, I intended to vote for Dr. Carson, but when I saw that tweet that Cruz sent out that he had left the race, I changed my vote. Not one person has come forth and said so. And I am here to tell you that if those people existed, they would have been found by now, and you would have seen them all over CNN, PMSNBC, and Fox. Ben Carson would have needed 25,000 votes. He ended up with 17,000. He ends up at a solid fourth place. He would have needed 25,000 votes to tie Rubio. Nobody is making the claim that he was cheated out of 25,000 votes when his total was 17,000. The CNN reporter is Chris Moody. Okay? So that's what happened. Now let's go to the Today Show today with Savannah Guthrie speaking with F. Chuck Todd of Meet the Press. And she said Donald Trump is accusing Cruz of stealing the election in Iowa. Number one, is there anything in the substance of that? And number two, is Trump's attack a smart political attack, do you think, Chuck?
I have to say, the more they fight, the more this helps one candidate. Not Ted Cruz, not Donald Trump, but Marco Rubio. The private polling I've been hearing about over the last 2 days post-Iowa indicates that Cruz hasn't gotten a bump, and I think partly because Trump has been beating him up. Trump's been eroding a little bit, and there's only one guy on the rise, Marco Rubio.
Okay. So F. Chuck cites private polling, meaning we're not allowed to know who, that says Trump's attacks on Cruz are working because Cruz isn't getting the bump that you would normally expect to see after a big win in Iowa, that Trump's numbers are eroding a little bit But the big gainer happens to be Marco Rubio. And people are scratching their heads and wonder how that's happened. Why is that? Rubio? How in the hell does Rubio get in this news? What's happening here to cause Rubio to rise in the polls? People scratching their heads and looking in the deep, dark crevices of the sofa, trying to find what's happening here. And F. Chuck thinks that Trump's attacks on Cruz on this Carson thing are actually hurting Cruz, even though Cruz has apologized. But, of course, we're not finished.